Welcome back. This week's tutorial tidbit is at the request of one of my patrons on my Patreon page who asked me about creating colors for black to use like in ravens or black Labradors or certain collages where you would need black paper. And I explained to her that I actually never use black. And so we got to talking about it, and I decided I needed to do a lesson in Patreon for creating black collage papers. So today's tutorial tidbit will be a sneak peek, a little bit of the beginning of that lesson, and then in my Patreon page, I will go into more depth and experiment with more color combinations. So if you are interested in joining me on Patreon, that link is going to be in your upper right-hand corner. And basically, Patreon is a $25 per month subscription-based website where you can support me as a full-time working artist, and you can benefit from my in-depth tutorial video lessons that publish every week, as well as a workshop on the Wizard of Oz portrait series and building better backgrounds. And last month, the month of September 2021, I filmed a video every single day, at least one, sometimes two, for the Tuscany video diaries chronicling my trip in Italy. The week after next, I'm headed to Sedona, Arizona to participate in their plein air festival. If you want to see how I can actually accomplish collage out in the wind and the weather, as well as I'll be teaching a workshop in Sedona, which will be the fashion plate portraits workshop. Those little video shorts are going to also be part of daily entries into Patreon for the 2 weeks that I spend in Sedona. So in addition to in-depth tutorial videos, there's also fun things like Tuscany video diaries or Sedona video shorts, and things like that, engaging material that I think you will enjoy and have fun with. Patreon is a month-to-month situation. You are not committed to any longer than 30 days. So if you want to pop in for 30 days, get everything out of it that you wanted, and pop out, that's fine with me. No hard feelings. The material that you have access to is everything that has ever been published and archived as soon as you register. So that material goes all the way back to May of 2020 and is publishing new every single week. So really, it is the best deal going in terms of learning in-depth video tutorials from me. So without any further ado, the supply lists are always going to be in my upper right-hand corner for my Amazon products, and under the video, down at the bottom underneath, majority of some of the products in this video are going to be coming from joggles.com. And last but not least, if you would like to receive this tutorial tidbit as a blog post packaged up with photos of all the product links at the bottom and coming from my website on my mailing list so that you don't miss any of them, sign up for my newsletter in the upper right-hand corner, because in addition to tutorial tidbits, you'll get some other amazing information on my newsletter. So we're all linked up now. Black is not black. For me, black is not black. Black is dark colors. Black is dark colors, but black is not black. I never use black paint. Here's what I do use. I use Payne's Gray. See how dark that is? It's a bluish gray. I use dioxidine purple. That is nearly black, but it is purple. I use anthracnone blue. That is the deepest, darkest blue I think that you can find. It looks like black, but it is blue. And I use Van Dyke brown. That is a pretty dark brown, but it is not black. And then for this lesson, I'm going to apply a little iridescence into these darks so that you could use it as a black crow, a black bird, or a black dog. So that, because black in and of itself, or these super darks, if it's just solid dark, it absorbs all the light. So we want to have some pattern, some texture in it. And we can do that by utilizing paints such as interference blue, which is a shimmery blue that looks the most intense when applied over dark colors. Iridescent pearl fine, which is sort of a white metallic. And micaceous iron oxide. This is a kind of interesting one. This is very gritty. If you run your finger across the swatch on the front of the container, you'll feel that it has a lot of grit. That has tooth to it. So when you use this on paper, you could draw on top of it with colored pencils or pastels because it's got a little toothy grab to it. So that's kind of fun too. But it is also metallic. So I've got my Dina Wakley 9 by 11 gel press plate here. I like this plate because it is a longer and will take up the majority of my paper and also fits the majority of my 9 by 12 stencil. So I'm going to be using this peacock plumage stencil that I designed for joggles.com. It is part of my peacock collection with them. 9 stencils and masks, basically 9 masks designed for joggles in a peacock theme. And since I was asked by folks on Patreon about creating these papers kind of for crows or black birds, I thought that these swirly lines in this mask would be appropriate and helpful. So the paper that I'm using is Joggles printable rice paper. It has fibers in it. You can see that it has fibers in it. It's not like your regular rice paper on the pad that I typically recommend, which I still love very much. But this, because it has fibers in it, is a great paper for a fuzzy application, such as a bird or a black lab, because it's going to rip with very fuzzy edges. The fuzzy edge and the fiber in this makes it great for fur. It also makes it great for grass or greenery in nature, anything that needs a fuzzy edge. So this paper is quite nice with the fuzzy edge. It is a rice paper and it is printable. You heard me say that. What does that mean? That means you can run this through your printer. How cool is that? It has a smooth side and a rough side. We're going to be printing on the smooth side. You can feel that. It's real obvious when you feel it. When we're going to be gel printing on the smooth side. If you wanted to run it through your printer at home and play with that sort of thing, layering some textural prints and then maybe gel printing on top, or whatever you might like to do with your inkjet or laser printer at home, you want to also be printing on the smooth side. And then you can take advantage after you print it of the way that it tears so nice and fuzzy with the fibers in it that give you sort of that furry feeling. So without further ado, I always work on a solid. I created these while I was practicing. So I've got some nice dark base colors. This one's a little bit lighter because it's got the interference in it. But some nice dark base colors printing on the smooth side of the Joggles printable rice paper. So when you use this Joggles printable rice paper, it's a little bit absorbent. So there's 2 factors that you need to keep in mind. One is that you need to work a little quicker. You need to work a little quicker so that it does not start to dry. Because if the paint starts to dry, even though this has that nice smooth side, it's going to want to stick to the plate. So you have to move it along, move it along. No dilly-dallying, no being on the phone, no running your laundry in between prints. So 1, work faster. 2, a little bit more paint on the base layer. You're going to go a little heavy on the paint on the base layer, which will help this to not stick. And then once you get your base layer, of course, your subsequent layers are just fine. So all we have to do in moving fast and using a little bit more paint is for the base layer. And remember, we're working on that smooth side. Very, very smooth. So the first color that I'm going to put out is Payne's Gray. I'm going to put it out liberally because the base layer, and I don't want it to stick. So I'm going to roll that out on my 9 by 11 Dina Wakley gel press plate with my 6-inch brayer. You can see this is Payne's Gray, but it really does look like it's as dark as black. So smooth side goes down, and we are going to print ourselves a nice base layer. And because I was very liberal with the paint, you can see it sort of coming through And then I just pull it up. And sometimes if you don't move quick enough or use enough paint, it's going to want to stick a little bit. That's the first time it stuck for me in the 15 prints that I made previous to the video. I'm not really worried about that because we'll layer over it. But that is what you want to try to avoid by moving quickly and using extra paint. Don't worry about these lines that are a result of the edge of your brayer, because we are going to layer, layer, layer. Those lines will disappear. So let's do that again with the Van Dyke Brown. Liberal Van Dyke Brown. I still have Payne's Gray in my brayer. I did not clean it off. So this will be a blend of a little bit of Payne's Gray and the Van Dyke Brown. Smooth side goes down. And removing it quickly. No sticking that time, and a nice dark layer. Again, any kind of deviations, pock marks, streak marks, whatever that happens in this base layer, do not fret. We're going to layer over it. So let's see. Let's now do a dioxidine purple base layer. Again, I'm not rolling out or cleaning my brayer, so the Van Dyke Brown and the Payne's Gray that are in there are just going to make this even better of a color. A nice color that is really essentially black without being black. Smooth side goes down. Liberal paint and working quickly to remove that base print. And now we have a really nice dark color to work with. And last but not least, we're going to use Anthraquinone Blue. Again, a liberal amount of paint and using that brayer that we haven't cleaned out. I haven't rolled it off on a clean sheet of paper. I'm just letting the previous colors inform the next color. Smooth side goes down. And pulling that print. A nice dark rich layer. Okay, so to prevent this from sliding around, I'm going to take it off the deli paper, which I had it on just so that it didn't stick to things. That's better. And again, I'm using my own mask design of plumage for joggles.com. And let's start with the interference blue. I'm going to put that out on the plate. My brayer still has color in it. This time I'm going to roll it off onto a clean sheet of paper. So I'm just rolling it off onto another one of my rice paper sheets. Now, I also wanted to mention that this is an A4 sheet of paper. That's why it's significantly narrower than the plate. It's 12, it's probably a little bit, it's probably 12 inches long, but it's an A4. Do you know what an A4 is? The only reason I know what an A4 is because I've been to Europe. A4 is when they take a standard full-size sheet and divide it into 4. There's A2s, A7s, A this, A that. Basically, they take the A and they divide it evenly into smaller pieces. And so this is an A4. What does that mean? It's not the size of anything we deal with here in the States. So it's a little narrower and a little longer. And this rice paper comes from Italy. Joggles gets this rice paper from Italy, so that is why it is in A4 size. And it's available in small packets from Joggles. You don't have to buy a ream of this paper. So it's available in small packets. That link is going to be below, but it's also going to be in my blog post. And you can sort of mess around and play with this and see how you like it with the soft fuzzy edges and the fibers for collage, with this starting with a small pack. So I've rolled off my brayer onto this sheet so that my brayer is not transferring this paint anymore. It's clean. And I've got my golden interference blue fine. So interference is like an iridescent, but it's clear. So it's sort of like a taffeta effect. But it's clear. It's clear. So you can see that it works the best over dark colors. So let's put in our plumage mask and use one of the dark sheets that we just printed. So the interference is going to look the best over dark colors because it is sort of a clear iridescent. So let's see what this looks like. And before I dismount the paper, I'm just going to add a little more pressure into any of the areas that look like there's paint left behind, where I could get more paint. And once I have the base layer of a nice solid color, I really am going to be less likely to have any issues with this sticking to the plate, because now I'm printing on top of this base layer of paint and not on the rice paper itself anymore. So I'm not worried about sticking as much as I was. So with the first layer, move fast, use some extra paint, and you'll be all set. Okay, so here's what the interference looks like. It is an iridescent, and it is a blue iridescent, and it is working really nicely over this blue background to create a super nice dark that could be used in a crow or a black lab or something like that. And that's just our first layer. Now I've got a ghost print under here, and I'm going to transfer that ghost print to a second dark sheet. So I'm going to lift the mask and quickly grab the paint that was trapped underneath it. We'll see how obvious this looks. It could be very subtle. There we go. You see it when you tip it. Very nice. I love that, actually. So that's the interference, which is sort of like a taffeta effect, and it is interference blue. Interference also comes in red and green and gold, all kinds of colors of interference, which you can play with over darks and over mediums. So this is going to give me my sort of iridescent crow or black lab colors. Then the next one I'm going to try is the micaceous iron oxide, the gritty silver. I'm not going to clean the interference out of my brayer. I'm just going to let that sort of work together. And in the interest of simplicity, I'm going to use the same mask and another one of our dark sheets. And this micaceous iron oxide is obviously going to be tinted blue because I hit it with the brayer with blue in it. If you wanted it to be more pure, you'd roll the brayer out on a clean piece of paper and come back with a clean brayer that wasn't going to add blue to the color. So again, you're going to do a peek before you dismount. And here, this is even more subtle than the interference, but you can see that it's in there. So that what you're seeing is a little bit of interference and a little bit of the micaceous iron oxide to create sort of a dark paper for crow or black lab. So it's a black that has a little bit more life in it than just a basic black. So that is the end of today's tidbit. For my Patreon lesson, I'm going to continue working, and I'm going to layer this and the other papers with some more effects, including the iridescent pearl fine and coming back in with the dark color on top again. But those in-depth tutorials are going to be on my Patreon page, and I hope that today you've enjoyed a little bit of a sneak peek into interference, blue fine, and micaceous iron oxide, and using both of them with my Dina Wakley 9x12 gel plate and this fantastic rice paper by Joggles that tears in a super soft edge. Happy Friday, and thank you for being here.